guys, Ladybugs Read here, and I know I haven't been posting for like a couple months, and forgive me for that. I've just been busy and stuff. So yeah, today we're gonna be reading The English Roses by Maddona. So yeah, let's do it. The English Roses by Maddona. For Lola and Rocco. Have you ever heard of the English Roses? Here's what they are not. A box of chocolates, a football team, flowers growing in the garden. What they are is this. 4 little girls named Nicole, Amy, Charlotte, and Grace. Nicole, Amy, Charlotte, and Grace. Here are some things you should know about them. They go to the same school and live in the same neighborhood. They play the same games, read the same books, and like the same boys. They have picnics in the summer and ice skating parties in the winter. They are practically glued together at the hip. And most of all, they love to dance. It sounds so perfectly fun and nice, and in many ways it was. But there was only one problem. They were all a little bit jealous of another girl in the neighborhood. Her name was Maddona, and here are some things you should know about her. She was very, very beautiful. She had long silky hair and skin like milk and honey. She was an excellent student and very good at sports. She was always kind to people. She was special. But she was sad, because even though she was the most beautiful girl anyone had ever seen, she was also very lonely. She had no friends, and everywhere she went, she was alone. By now, you're probably wondering, what's the big deal? If she was so nice, why didn't the English Roses invite her over for a cup of tea? Listen, I already told you why, because they were a little jealous. Well, maybe more than a little. Have you ever been green with envy, or felt like you were about to explode if you didn't get what nobody else had? If you say no, you're telling a big fat fib, and I'm going to tell your mother. Now, stop interrupting me. You see, the English Roses want to be friendly, and they knew that Maddona was lonely. But they could not bring themselves to be nice for her, because everywhere they went, this is what they heard. What a beauty she is! She shines like a star. That Maddona is something else. And when Nicole and Amy and Charlotte and Grace had heard what people speak this way about Maddona, they always felt like they were going to be sick. This is what they would say. How could anyone be so perfect? No one ever says that about us. It's not fair to have that so much. Let's pretend we don't see her when she walks by. Let's push her into the lake. And that is what they did. No, silly, not the lake part. The pretending to not see her part. And so time went on, and the English Roses continued to have fun with each other, while Maddona remained alone. One night, when all the girls were having a sleepover at Nicole's house, her mother peeked her head in a corner and said, "Do you mind if I come in and have a chat with all of you?" "Don't worry, Mom. We're going to bed soon," said Nicole. "Just let us finish our pillow fight." "That's not why I came in here," her mother replied. "I want to talk to you about Maddona. She lives down the street. She goes to your school. She likes to do all the same things you like to do, and yet you never invite her over or make any effort to be friendly with her." There was a very long pause. The English Roses looked around the room at one another. Amy was the first to speak. "She thinks she's God's gift to creation just because she's beautiful." "Yeah, why should we invite her over? She gets enough attention already," Charlotte joined in. "It's not that we just don't like her," said Nicole. "It's probably that she's just probably stuck up. Pretty girls usually are." Nicole's mother thought about this for a moment and then said, "I think you girls are being unfair. She looks like she could really use a friend, and you haven't even had a conversation with her. How do you know what kind of person she is? How would you like it if people decided on whether you were going to be nice based on how you look?" The girls knew she had a point, but they didn't want to say it. Suddenly, they didn't feel like having a pillow fight. "Please think about what I've said," said Nicole's mother, and she stood up and kissed them all good night. When her mother was gone, Nicole turned out the light, and the girls lay awake in the dark for quite a while thinking about what Nicole's mother had said. No one had said a word, and eventually they all fell fast asleep. And while they were sleeping, they each had the same dream. Here's what they dreamed. All 4 of them were having a picnic in the park, complaining, as usual, about how beautiful Bina was, and how she got too much attention, and how unfair it was for them, when suddenly a fairy godmother appeared. She was short and plump and very jolly looking. Listen, why am I telling you this? Don't you know what a fairy godmother looks like? Anyway, she landed right on top of Charlotte's sandwich. Excuse me, is that pumpernickel bread? She said, sniffing the air. I just love the smell of pumpernickel. The girls stared at her with their mouths open, because they had never seen a fairy godmother before. Said the fairy godmother, clearing her throat. Now, where was I? Oh, yes, I couldn't help but overhear your conversation, and it sounds like you are all quite dissatisfied with who you are, which makes me very unhappy, and I would like to offer you the opportunity to be someone else. What do you mean? Asked Charlotte, pulling her sandwich out from underneath the fairy godmother's bottom. What I mean, replied the fairy, and please do not interrupt me, is that if you are so jealous of Bina, by all means, you should be someone else. In fact, perhaps one of you would like to trade places with Bina. Oh, that's silly. How could we possibly be someone else? Interrupted Grace. Well, if you would just let me finish, harumphed the fairy. When I sprinkle my magic dust over you, you can be whoever you'd like to be. But first, you might want to fly over to Bina's house with me and spend some time with her, just to make sure that her life is to your liking, or anyone else's for that matter. The girls all gulped and nodded, and finally, Nicole said, But she'll see us looking through the window, and she'll think we're burglars or something. Yeah, she might call the police, added Amy. Oh, nonsense, scoffed the fairy, nibbling on Charlotte's chocolate chip cookie. And when I sprinkle you with the magic fairy dust, you will be invisible, and you can go wherever you want to go, and no one will ever see you. The girls just sat there speechless, which didn't happen very often, I can assure you. Well, don't just sit there stuffing your faces, rutted the fairy. Stuffing her face? My time is very valuable. The girls leaned forward and whispered quietly for a moment. They decided that the fairy took their cookies without asking. She seemed rather harmless, and anyway, they couldn't turn down the chance of spying on Bina without her knowing they were there. So they asked to be sprinkled with fairy dust, and they flew off to Bina's house.